But as of a few hours ago, we started getting people on. And you don't know this yet, Hassan, but we have 18 people waiting to try the product right now. So that's kind of cool, right?
Amazing. That's super cool.
Yeah, cool. Hey everyone, this is Heini Zachariassen here, and welcome to Founders Weekly, where we tell startup stories you can learn from. What happens when you try and build a startup in just 4 days? This is the story of an ambitious challenge we took in November 2024. The goal was simple but crazy: build and launch an AI product, get real customers using it, all within 96 hours. This is part 1 of that story. Let me give you the setup. We fly down to our house in Barcelona in a small city called Sitges. 3 team members and 1 deadline. Hassan, our developer, is working from the top floor, Levin handling marketing, and I are in the living room. The product we decided to build is a product for content creators. It's quite a lot a product for people like me, people that do YouTube, people do podcasts. We have one big challenge, and it is we spend a lot of time on not building what we're good at, like content. Instead, we write all these texts. We spend just a lot of time building show notes, descriptions, keywords, social posts. Literally, it could be several hours for everything you do. You have to build some data. And we thought maybe we could build like a really fancy product around that so that the people that build content can do that automatically.
As with everything, when we're building from scratch, right? Like the goalposts are going to change. What we're building is going to change the more we learn stuff. So totally. I think like that has been the most surprising, because already we're struggling in a good way. So I've been building stuff for a very long time, and when you do that, you start becoming a little too perfectionist, I would say. Like, obviously it's important to just like release, right? But at the same time, there is a minimum amount of, I would say, like user experience that you need to have. And specifically for stuff like this, like for inputting things, like it's the stuff where, okay, when I open an app, let's say I want to input my YouTube feed into it, right? I expect it to be so easy. I expect it to be where I just paste in my URL and it just works. And it just works. A lot of people don't realize how much work goes into that. The way you can post the URL can be 5 different ways. Some people will say, hey, the URL you post has to be exactly like this and make sure it matches like this. And
humans are not like that, right?
And I hate that. I hate when apps do that. It's like, just, I'm sure you can figure it out. And so, so that's what I did. So now we're inputting things in 3 different, not even formats, but 3 different entire things, which is the RSS feed of a podcast and the Apple podcast feed of a podcast, or like a link to an Apple podcast, and a link to your YouTube channel, right? So 3 separate mediums, if you want to call them. And in these 3 separate mediums, each of them has like, I think like 3 or 4 different ways that people can link to them. So all you have to do, or like what I've built today, is you just paste in a link and it figures it all out, right? It grabs all the information about your podcast or whatever content you have.
Descriptions, notes, everything.
Everything, description, notes, titles, even like links to other data that we're going to be using when we're generating content later, right? It also grabs obviously the episodes, but more importantly, you need to be able to choose which episodes to run. So Raw Startup actually is a really good example, because you're a very diverse channel. So although you might link your YouTube, you only want maybe like the Founders Weekly episodes. So you need to be able to just select those. And everything needs to be very snappy, right? It needs to just work. So yeah, like a lot of my day has been going into that. And then also all this data, you bring it in, and it's not like I bring it and I throw it away. I have to save it somewhere. And when you're saving data, sure, you can dump all of it maybe like in a text file somewhere, but then it becomes a bit useless, right? So I had to come in, figure out all this data. What does it look like? What structure does it have? How reliable is it? Like, are the publishing dates always there? Is it sometimes there? And then design a database schema around that, right? So, and do all of this importing, and then allow people to delete and add and all the stuff that you don't usually take into account when just building stuff like this.
That's Hassan explaining our core challenge. Every content creator faces this problem, spending hours writing descriptions, show notes, social posts, and so on. We want to solve it, but with a twist. AI would learn your style.
In general, a lot of the solutions that are out there right now, just for content creators in general, they're very, very generalized. I think like most people, what they do is they go on ChatGPT, any other LLM, and they try to come up with titles and keywords and descriptions. And it's usually like very generic. It has nothing to do with anything you've built before. And it kind of sucks. You end up wasting your time, and then you just build the whole thing, like you write the whole thing from scratch, right? What's interesting about what we're doing is we don't know if it's going to work, right?
We think it's going to work.
We think it's going to work, but we don't know that it's going to work.
By mid-morning of day one, Hassan was deep into building the core technology. And then came our first setback.
I had this, as Trump would call it, this beautiful file, right? That had like all the crazy algorithms to do all of this. If you post any link, it needs to figure out the right one, all of that. And then I ran like a single like AI command to help me with the coding, and it just deleted the entire file. And usually like you can undo or something. No, that thing was gone. And this was hours of work. So I had to rewrite that.
While Hassan was rebuilding the lost code, we were also thinking about how to get this product to market. We brought on Stefan, our growth expert, for a strategy session.
First of all, I'm going to be like the devil's advocate on some of these things. Well, the second thing is that I want to push this on socials like Reddit, who are going to be brutal. I think that going in with a clear message of streamline the process maybe, and then we are going to get you more views.
By the end of day one, we had a basic system working. Now we need validation from real content creators. We invited Stoyan, a podcaster and professional speaker, to test our first version.
Your eyes look a little red, but that's good because you're building, so that's great. I'm a former movie and video producer turned into a productivity and performance coach, professional speaker, and a podcaster as well. That's the kind of the short version, and I'm excited to learn. Again, my podcast is called Productivity Mastery. Guests like Heini, incredible people. Actually, we're going to have episode 200 next week. So great timing to do a little bit of something. And I'm excited to hear about this too. When Heini told me about it, I was like, I need something like that if it works. So I'm now excited to see how far you.
So the only unknown that we have now is, does it work? You're not going to see it totally there yet. But this honestly, and this was the impression I got from a lot of people that I spoke to, is like, yeah, we've seen a few of those. They don't really work. And they're clumsy and so on. So we wanted to do it differently. But Hassan, you heard Hassan in the beginning. We don't know if this is going to work or not. Having someone like Stoyan test the product was crucial. He runs a successful podcast with nearly 200 episodes. Exactly the kind of creator we were building.
This is a Apple Podcast URL, which actually usually doesn't have any information other than just the title and stuff. But the magic tool here should fetch everything. Bam.
Boom.
So this is all the info, right? You, the category, your website. Apparently, this is the description of it. So we're just going to go ahead and press save. Amazing. So now it created the project, right? You can see it here, Productivity Mastery. And it brought in all the releases. So it looks like, yeah, you're on 196 episodes. You were right. Very close to 200. So now what we're going to do is essentially select the podcasts you want to use as the base training data, right? So this is especially useful for, again, like someone like Heini that has, let's say, the Raw Startup channel. And for example, if I were to import Raw Startup here, you would see like videos that are unrelated to, let's say, the Founders Weekly podcast.
So if they're different categories, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes max to 10. We're trying, for cost reasons, right? You have to be smart with cost when building a startup, but also because like anything more than 10 is not really going to help us. I'm going to import. So this imports everything. It adds it to a database, and then in the background, what's going on is it's also transcribing everything. So it's pulling in all of these podcasts and it's transcribing them. But that's it. I mean, it's super simple, and that's the goal.
It's cool. Yeah, easy to use.
Yeah. The goal is for it to be easy to use, which is why it took us all day to do.
Yeah, this looks easy, right?
Yeah, super simple. I'm looking forward to see what are the features and what's coming out from here, right?
But that's the thing, right? Like that's how easy it is to onboard. We wanted it to be You just literally paste in a link and you're done, versus having to fill in a form or put in stuff or, put in the videos. And one thing here that if you notice, and this was actually for me testing, but I do have, so right now, if you notice, there's like 2 projects here. The reason both of these are selected here, I mean, I have them showing both, again, just for like testing purposes, because I wanted to like switch between. But in the back end, it did recognize that you are the same person. Although we did 2 different URLs, it did recognize that, okay, this is coming from the same podcast, and it linked them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is important because let's say, again, you're having 2 different things, like, again, completely 2 different mediums, let's just call them. I want to be able to crisscross and figure out like, okay, this is the YouTube video from this audio that's coming from Apple, so that I can, again, do cool stuff with it later in the next 2 days.
This is what happens when you get real users involved early. Day 1 ended up with a mix of excitement and anxiety. We had proven we could build something, but we still had massive challenges ahead. Day 2 started with another crucial strategy meeting.
Heini's sense of design is just terrible, right? He has no sense of design. Yeah, that's not his strong suit. But I'm thinking that we need 2 different landing pages, one for podcasts and one for YouTube videos, because there's never going to be an overlap. There's no one going to be like, oh, I can also do podcasts. I don't think that makes any sense. And I think it's easier to communicate what we're doing quicker if we have different landing pages. I think the landing page needs to either look really cool. I don't think that we have time to do that, is my guess. And so I think it needs to be very simple, but it needs to look really good. It is very hard to actually create something that looks very lowbrow, like very simple. Yeah. It takes some designing skills. I can definitely help you out there. Not me, but I have I'm sitting next to a super talented designer. I'm going to ask him, but I think the copy itself, if that's something you can work on, and then I can jump in and see if I can help, because like it needs to be very, very simple, right? It needs to be like,
is it 3-4 bullets still, or what is it?
It would be perfect to visualize it, right? You have like 3 different blocks, like blog, YouTube, Twitter, and then like we take all of this into like one thing, one output. That would be great, but I don't think that we have the time to do that. So I think that just super simple copy and a bit of that, this is exclusive, like this is an invite rather than please sign up thing.
That has changed. I've changed that because of you. Thank you very much, Stefan.
But get rid of the background, get rid of that logo, get rid of anything, and just find a perfect font. I would prioritize that right now, because when we have that landing page, I can just start testing things out. I don't need like a product or anything that's finished, because that's going to be the big explanation is going to be on my side when it comes to, Reddit or the post, exactly. And that's going to be super aggressive on how wonderful this is, and that you can't live without it. So I don't need that for the landing page to communicate that. I just need the landing page to be super simple, look very professional. I mean, especially in the end, if we are going to take payments, and if we want that one customer, it needs to be like spot on, right?
Stefan's insight about splitting our approach between podcasters and YouTubers was a game changer. Meanwhile, Hassan was tackling our biggest technical challenge yet.
The idea is we wanted to make this very easy, right? So I'm a nerd when it comes to user experience. I want everything to just work. And yesterday was a lot of just work. Today was a pretty big day. On the tech side of things, I worked on the very big thing was transcription, right? When these, what do you call them, podcasts or episodes or whatever are coming in, I need to be able to transcribe everything, which is a very expensive usually and heavy process. Luckily, on my day today, so outside this weekend, I'm working on a new company called justlearn.com. And we do a lot of that. So that was helpful in working on this. But at the same time, the requirements for Just Learn are much, much different. And if any of you have worked in transcription, it's not easy and it's slow and again, expensive. So I had to do a lot of that. But the first half of the day, after a good coffee and some food, I figured it out. Second half of the day was essentially figuring out what the transcription means and the schema and structuring all this data. We have so much data coming in. So I'm able to bring that in and start learning. So starting the learning process. And we did a lot of that. By the end of the day, so I would say like in the last hour, started doing our first generations. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to show them. So part of all of this, by the way, yesterday built an entire UI. You can log in, you can sign up, you can pay, you can create teams. So it's ready. You know, if let's say you're not the only one working on your podcast, it's you and your team and etc. So yeah, we're able to get the first generations out, and they're very interesting. Actually, I'm able to figure things out like, you know, better titles, concepts that we're talking about in all these podcasts, you know, key takeaways, quotes, everything like that. And then on top of that, we did our first release, which means I was able to bring in actually Heini's raw startup. And then we tried to bring a new video that wasn't on the channel before and uploaded it. And it came up with some amazing titles and concepts. And again, it all kind of fit with what was there before.
By the afternoon of day 2, something unexpected started happening. Our waitlist began growing. Let me just talk a little bit about what we've done so far. So we built this website, which looks fantastic. Levin, he's still working. He's helping us with the marketing. We're doing these shorts, which are seen on all channels too. I have another one coming out in a second, which is kind of cool. And like I said, we're starting to get people on board. What we do right now while we build this thing, is that we built the website and then we have a wait list on there. And until a few hours ago, there was like 7 people on there. And that was basically my buddies. Sorry. It was just my friends and family that were on there. But as of a few hours ago, we started getting people on. And you don't know this yet, Hassan, but we have 18 people waiting to try the product right now. So that's kind of cool, right?
Amazing. That's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Stefan had started posting about Just Release on Reddit, and the response was immediate.
I have a guy that I constantly, like, daily work with. He, like, is the only one who has cracked the Reddit algorithm.
This is not in the video for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to get, like, a ton of upvotes, and we're going to get reactions. Then, like, moderators are going to see it and see if
there's a window.
There's a window, and if we're lucky, I mean, some cases the mods are fine with it.
Could you say, I'm doing some great posts on Reddit to build a community and then Discord? Like, is that, could you spend 5-10 minutes on that?
I can say that, you know, I have several Reddit accounts ready to push this. In reality, it doesn't work like that. It's very difficult to, you can change IP addresses. It's impossible to fake that. I think that Reddit is the best at, you know, handling bots and so on. But I think that's going to be a little bit of a white lie from me that I have multiple accounts. But just so you know what's happening in the.
But then I would ask, okay, Stefan, what story would you tell there? And then we talk about the content you post and so on. I think that's
exactly.
Fine. Okay,
yes.
Let's do it. You want tomorrow or tonight? This is 100 your call. By the end of day 2, we had made significant progress. A working system that could ingest content, first real user feedback, growing waitlist, and a clear marketing strategy. But we are only halfway through our challenge. The next 2 days would be crucial. We still need to perfect the AI output, build the payment system, and get our first paying customers. And we were about to face our biggest technical challenge yet with our YouTube integration. It didn't come down until 3-4 o'clock, right? And we said, hey, what's happening? And what happened there?
It was twofold. One was I was in a little bit of a flow because I needed to provision the entire like live actual servers because everything was running locally on my machine. But obviously, like that's not going to help anyone if it's not actually on the web. And then like actually doing a lot of the release process per se. That was also a ton of work. And we came up with this like cool trick because these YouTube files or like video files are really, really big when you're doing a new
Humongous.
release. Yeah, so having to like upload a 6 gig file is pretty nuts. When in reality, all I really need is the audio, at least for what we're doing now. So we came up with this idea of like, what if we can just have the file in your browser and then transform it into audio and then upload that? And I didn't think it was going to work.
Because this has always been a concern of mine with this product. It's like, okay, I know how long it takes to upload these files. And so there's an opportunity to actually do separate it locally and then upload it. It's really, really smart. That's where we'll pick up in part 2 of the story. At this point, we're optimistic, but realistic. Building a startup in 4 days is ambitious, maybe even a little crazy. We were starting to believe it might just be possible. I'm Heini Zachariassen, and this has been part 1 of Building a Startup in 4 days, the just released story. Part 2, where we tackled the YouTube integration, launch to our waitlist, and try and get our first paying customer, all in the next 48 hours. We've come to the end of another episode of Founders Weekly. Please make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And leave a review and rating, it really helps. For those of you on YouTube, check out Raw Startup. A lot of good videos about building a startup. This has been Founders Weekly. Now stop listening, go build something.